doing another. This is going to be a newer series of the engine swap series on Gran Turismo. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is instead of isolating the car and seeing how the engine swap relates to the specific car, we're going to see where the best home for the motor is. So if you have one of a specific type of motor, I mean, we're not going to do the ones that only have one option, like the Audi engine going into the MR2, because, you know, out of the MR2 and the MR2, you're going to pick the MR2. Like, we don't really need to figure that one out. Now, if they add more cars in the series or in the engine swap compatibility list, then we may revisit this. There's also a couple cars where I'm missing some of the motors. I'm missing one of the GTR motors. I'm missing one of the 2JZ motors, the super motors, and that may be, I think that's it. So of those, so the 2JZ, I'm missing two motors, but the FRS and the GR86 or whatever, the BRZ, those, I mean, I can't even keep this straight anymore, but those cars, you're not going to see too many. I mean, between those, we could probably, if we get one extra 2JZ motor, we could kind of cover both cars. It'd be interesting to see if there's a difference between the GR86 and the BRZ, but it's the same chassis, so I'm guessing there's not. I mean, we're not messing with like climate control and heated seats, and I think that's one of the main differences between the cars in real life. Anyway, I think the Subaru is a little bit more premium in terms of options, but I don't know if they got on that level. I could probably figure that out just by driving the base cars and seeing if there's any noticeable difference. I don't expect there to be, but I'm missing that, and I'm missing one of the GTR motors. So I've already put a motor into the Lancia. I don't know whether I want to do the 300ZX or the 180SX yet. I'm kind of leaning towards the 180, but we'll kind of cross that bridge at a later date. Hopefully I'll get one of those engines in the meantime. But for today's standards, we're going to go ahead and try the Bus versus the Beetle. Now, I'm already partial to one, so let's take a look and see how they feel. And I've done some suspension work on these. Like if you've seen them in the comparison of the base formats, like with only putting parts on, not doing any kind of tweaking, you may notice that this thing doesn't roll the same way it used to. Corners a little bit more aggressively, and it's a little more stable in the corners. I also had to change the wheels because I wanted the wider wheel on it. The wider wheel, the wider offset, and it just wasn't an option with the factory wheel. So let's push him a little bit. Now, when I was building these setups, I was just trying to get a more predictable, more aggressive setup than what they come with. Like, do some little tweaking. I lower them typically, I stiffen them up, try to get them to rotate a little bit more predictably, and I think I was pretty successful in this, but I'm not going for like the perfect setup, so . like anything else, the more time you put into it, the more you can perfect it. It still feels big. Like even though we're in a Volkswagen, which these aren't huge vehicles, coming up on that BMW, I felt like I could intimidate it just with my size. Love the way this engine cracks. So in terms of performance points, these cars didn't end up too far apart. They're both a little over 700, with the Beetle edging this out at, I think this one's like 704 or something like that. You know, low 700s. And I think the Beetle ended up with right around the 730 mark. And I noticed as I was kind of dialing in the feel that I liked, the points were kind of dropping. So you could probably build these things a lot quicker than what I have them right now. Plus, I'm kind of setting them up for this track. This track is real tight, real sketchy in terms of the hills. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all. Got a 219. I mean, this did a 217 before I worked on it. Offline, I was able to get a 216 with it. Some of this is just perception, but it feels more predictable to me. I don't know that it is. I mean, it seems like it bites a little harder too when you do let it go. So you have to make sure you're rolling into the throttle. It'll slide, like it's sliding just ever so slightly right now. Both of these vehicles take a lot of, you got to be very present to drive them. I mean, they're not something you can kind of rest with. They're waiting for you to lose focus so they can bite you. Doesn't feel like a lightweight vehicle. I think it's lighter than what you'd expect. I think it's right around 2,000 pounds. So it's not heavy, but it's tall. and you feel the lightness in the front end as it's driving. So it's something where if you get on the gas too quickly, and we got a 217, low 217. But if you get on the throttle too quickly, it feels light in the front, and it is less responsive in the wheel. We got a 217 with the bus. Let's see what we do with the Beetle. I don't even think I completed a lap when I was trying to set it up. I kind of got close in my mind with it, and we'll see what we're dealing with here. Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, you can see there, I mean, 203 or 703 versus 731. So it's on paper, it's a quicker car. And I think this one still needs some work. What the heck? I don't know what that was. I'll tell you one thing I noticed with setting this car up. If you lower the front end too much, the steering will bind. So I was pushing through the corners, and I didn't notice it at first. I was trying to soften the front end up so the thing would rotate. And then I realized that the steering wheel on the screen wasn't turning, so it was the actual wheels binding underneath the fence. Actually, that's it right there. I'm gonna back out real quick and make sure that we didn't lose some of our settings. Do you see that where it just stops turning? Let's give it a couple more millimeters and see if that helps get rid of that. Yeah, see, we're losing points as we're doing this stuff, but I'm trying to get the car to actually rotate. I don't know if that's a glitch with this car, or if it is just the front wheels binding. Trying to see if that's happening under braking more so than coasting or accelerating. That could be, you know, the suspension collapsing and then dropping that front end a little bit more to where the wheels bind. Little thing's a handful. Really, it seems like when you're hitting the brakes, this thing wants to bind up the wheels, so. Might have to lift it up some more. And this has the wide wheels and the wide offset, so maybe that's something you don't want to do on this car. don't know if you're seeing that where the hand stops as you're hitting the brakes. Now it's just... So the Beetle feels a whole lot smaller. It feels a whole lot faster. So far it's not looking like it's, you know, a whole great deal faster just on the times. Let's see what we come up with here across the finish line. I don't know what that stick is. Yeah, it's faster, 2 seconds faster. And that's with issues. I'm gonna try lifting this thing up a little bit more offline, but I mean between the two, I definitely prefer the Beetle more. I think it's a better looking car, which is 100% opinion. But I think it just got more potential too. That steering issue is either a problem with my setup where I've lowered the front end too much, or you know, it does have the wide body kit on, so it's got the wide body kit, it's got the wide wheels and wide offset. So maybe I just went too greedy there and it's catching in the fender wells, or maybe it's just too low still. It's higher than what I normally do with, you know, usually I lower my cars to about 10 millimeters above the base. Now maybe this car needs to be lifted up a little bit, or maybe it is a glitch in the game. I don't know. If it's a glitch in the game, I trust eventually it'll get corrected. If it's a glitch in my setup, I'll try to correct that today. But either way, I'm enjoying this car more than the bots. So between the two, I would definitely, if you only have one of the Porsche motors, this is where I would put it. But either way, I mean, not a huge difference one way or another. This is definitely the faster car. It's definitely, to me, more fun to drive. You can get that back end, you can feel it kicking out, whereas the bus feels heavy, it feels sluggish, even though it's not a dramatic change between the two in speed. This one just feels better. So if your heart is set on building the bus and you only have one, go for it. The car has aero in the rear end as well, whereas the bus does not. So you can choose whether or not to put two different styles of spoiler on the car. I think it almost looks better without it. But it does have the aero as an option, whereas the bus does not. But it's one of those things. I mean, if your heart's set on building the bus and you only have one, go for it. You're not going to be that disappointed. But if you only have one and you're torn between the two, I would recommend the Beetle. Thank you so much, and have a great night.